beep, 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 beep. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Left Face. This is the Pikes Peak Region podcast, where we talk about political topics through a veteran's point of view. I'm your co-host, Dick Wilkinson. I'm also the score producer for the show,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
joined today with my co-host, Adam.
yeah.
How are you, Adam?
MC Dick Wilkinson. I'm doing really good.
Yeah,
That is,
good.
I love the addition to the flow here.
Yeah, and you know it'll be a little different every time, and so it'll be a little
Yeah,
Easter egg kind of situation for folks.
yeah.
Yeah,
All in the mood, all in your mood.
yeah, right. Well, my mood today, we'll just kick off with a light note. I'm full of hope. Right, I've seen a lot of things this in the last 48 hours that filled me up with hope, and one of them I saw in town here. There's been a guy every day that I've driven home this week. There's this guy that's standing on the corner at Austin Bluffs and Academy. And anybody in Colorado Springs knows that's a huge thoroughfare, two thoroughfares, big giant intersection. And he's been standing on the corner with one sign by himself. And it's, abolish ICE. And he's got a bullhorn clipped to his belt and he's just yelling at the traffic, right? Well, that's great, and I'm happy for him. But today, guess what I saw? I'm coming down Austin Bluffs around lunchtime, and I see a group of probably 50, 60, what look like high school kids walk up out of this parking lot. They've all got signs. They're all holding hands. They're all screaming and chanting, and they're all walking down to that corner.
That's
So
cool.
I honked at them, and I waved at them, and I was like,
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
that's awesome.
that was great. I was really happy to see that.
Like now, where I am now, it'd be cool to like have those kids like talk to organizers to teach them how to like get the media out there and really like highlight it so that you get the biggest impact.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, stuff like that, they need to be recognized for that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That makes you a domestic terrorist and a radical left liberal for
Well,
trying to teach people how to protest, Adam.
Yeah, I know.
You're going to end up on a list.
In Georgia today, or yesterday, I think it was Georgia, somewhere down south, a high school protest, a kid got ran over.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so a MAGA vehicle showed up.
Pro-Tifa truck.
The Pro-Tifa guys, and they were kind of yelling at somebody behind them. You can kind of see that they just weren't paying attention to where the direction of the vehicle.
Oh man,
and yeah, they ran. I don't know how the kids doing. They got ran over. I just saw the video this morning, but
that's terrible. Then maybe helping people be safe, which is what you do at protests. So I get why you see that as a need. Yeah,
because when you're talking to that video, there was one adult, no vest on or anything like that, trying to keep all these kids back on the sidewalk and everything, and everybody needs to stay safe. There's calls for us to kind of stop, cooperating and things like that. It's like, no, like everybody needs to know that somebody's keeping an eye out on them.
Yeah.
Trying to keep them safe at least, know.
Well, and of course they're out today because Minneapolis is taking to the streets again today. The people are out. I'm watching the news just a few minutes ago, and there's thousands of people in the streets, even though there's supposedly a change in tone of the operation and everything. We're going to get to that in a minute, I guess, when we talk about that. First topic that we were going to talk about briefly was next Friday, the veterans, it's a military appreciation day up at the Capitol in Denver. And
they're going into session, right?
I guess the legislative session is going on, right? I don't know when it started, but it's part of the session. So there'll be a lot of people there from all sorts of different organizations, right? And we get to go into the House floor or some chambers near the House floor, and we're going to set up a table for the CDVC, the Colorado Democratic Veterans
Council. The council. I think it's a council.
And we'll be promoting that group is, active, and we want to talk to the lawmakers. We want to talk to the other service organizations that are going to be there that day, and just sort of it's our coming out, our debut, if you will, in that environment, to let people know that we're organized and we're a recognized group within the Democratic Party here. So I'll be attending that, and we'll have something to talk about on the show in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, the presence of an organized veterans group goes so far. I've been in a lot of meetings now where whenever it's us running it, people really appreciate how things go.
Yeah.
Just how
Yeah.
direct it is, and like, you just get business done. You kind of know where you're going at the end of the day. So, having a group like this that can sit down and talk with legislators and have their ear and get things done is going to be so huge. You worked on the program in New Mexico, got a lot of things done down there. They're doing some great things that could easily be transferred up here.
Yep.
So like a lot of the heavy lifting's even already been done. We just got to
Exactly. It's
get it
low
in front
hanging
of the
fruit.
people.
Like it's on the ground
Yeah.
at this point. You just got to walk by and put it
Right.
in the basket,
Right. So
so,
so
and
yeah,
we're in
yeah,
a blue state at the state level, right? Like the legislative state level is very blue. So if you've got lawmakers that are on the Democratic side and they're veterans, you got your foot in the door. You should
yeah,
have, the opportunity to get stuff done without
yeah.
too much resistance, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah,
There's a lot of opportunities to get our voices out there, you know, and that's why it's always important to make sure people are still talking about all of their experiences with the VA and things like that, so that we could take that data, take action on it.
yeah,
It's one thing to sit around the campfire and bitch about it with your friends, but call your congressman, call people,
yeah.
get that stuff tracked and things like that, because that's the only way that we can take action on it.
Yeah, and there'll be some common themes that pop up as these lawmakers realize, okay, they can tune their ears in now to veterans issues when they're out in their communities, right? And when they go
Yeah.
to their regular public appearances and people are talking to them about veterans issues now, instead of kind of they hear it and go, well, I'm not really sure what I can do with that. Now they
Right.
know that there's a group that can help them craft legislation or look into the problem, maybe do some
Yeah.
research because they
Yeah.
hear an anecdote and they want to find out how big of a problem is this across the state? Is it just in
Right.
that county? And those are the
Yep.
kind of things that this group can help with. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Really tying it all together. So yeah, that's
Yep.
cool. So yeah, that'll be next week. Um, yeah, hopefully we get some good introductions out of that.
Yeah, for sure. And if we record the show after that, then we'll talk about it in
Mm,
next week's episode. But if not,
okay.
then we'll do it, we'll get it in
Okay.
2 weeks from now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. What's our first big topic on the list then?
So after that, we wanted to talk about the whole Minnesota situation, what's going on there. We've seen some, like you said, change in tones the last few days with the Alex Preddy shooting,
Yeah.
and how that's been handled by the administration. What's one of the big things you've noticed about how this situation is different from just 2 weeks ago with Renee Good?
Mm-hmm. For me, what I saw in the news today that the two officers that were trigger pullers in that event were put on leave, and there is actually going to be some type of investigation that's not going to be conducted by DHS or Border Patrol. So that is, to me, that's a step in the right direction. I understand that it's still going to be done by another cabinet member of the same administration, and if there was a desire to, poo poo something away, that could still happen. But at least it wasn't the same almost egregious nature of we're not even going to investigate, nobody did anything wrong, and don't ask any more questions. That was terrible, and that was obviously a big factor in what led us to this change in tone, right? Like it's all
Yeah.
added up, right? It's all added
Right.
up from the worst possible response to they were about to do the exact same thing again,
Yeah.
and the whole world kind of
Oh,
blew up on them. You
right.
mentioned the Second Amendment piece. Tell me what your kind of take is on that, how that's affected the tone of this situation in the last week.
Well, with the Second Amendment has been such a sacred thing for the right, and it just blows my mind that this is going to be one of those moments that, or one of those topics that brings people back together. Which I mean, I'm good with, because I support the Second Amendment.
Sure,
Like it's like something that's very veteran friendly. We all
yeah,
have weapons and things like that.
sure,
So for the president and for Kristi Noem and all of the administration really to come out and say that folks could not, or shouldn't be carrying weapons to protests,
hmm
that threw up so many flags on the right that they said no. Like that they started supporting that. Like, no, that is something that's protected. That is something we don't say that we should do, and that's really what's kind of driven this change in tone for the entire environment. Bovino getting demoted, having to step down.
Yeah.
And I think they need to look into not just those officer shootings that did the shooting, but this cover up. Bovino was on tape saying that he immediately sent the officers out of Minnesota to avoid prosecution there.
Yeah.
Like you can't cut through a parking lot to avoid a red light. Like
Exactly.
like this is again a career law enforcement guy. You can't if you're doing stuff like that, you're doing stuff that's wrong and unethical. If you're trying to circumvent other laws, so this whole cover up
Absolutely.
this whole cover up needs to be looked at and dove into, and like he shouldn't be allowed to just squirrel away in California and retire and collect his pension, and he'll be a Fox News analyst in our next sec def pretty soon. But
Yeah.
like we can't allow that. We need accountability. It's not just about getting these people out of there. Like they can't just go somewhere else. They're
Sure.
starting operations in other places right now. Maine's had some operations getting started.
Yeah.
Things have been picking up here around town. We still see posts around town and things like that.
Yep.
So like we need it to stop, and we need accountability of the people in charge. And that's why it's taken the investigation away from Minnesota themselves and put it in the FBI's hands. That's a huge scare red flag for me.
I
You know,
wonder if,
okay.
this remains to be seen. So this is just conjecture on my part. The governor and the mayor there, so local law enforcement, state level law enforcement. Obviously, the state level has probably the most robust relationship with the FBI. They've got liaison people that work back and forth with each other every day.
Hmm.
So it may be more possible for the state level police to be involved in the investigation now that the FBI, instead of DHS or CBP, are the investigating authority. They may be able to do casework together better. That again, that's my conjecture. I would think that apparatus is in place and it's better, so that relationship could be there, right? It's
Yeah, but
possible, I guess.
so the possibility of a perfect justice system has never existed, will never exist. Like,
Sure, sure.
there's
I wasn't
ways.
claiming that at all.
There's no such thing as an FBI investigation right now that's not being driven by this administration.
Sure, because even the
From
attorney general is directly in the pocket of the
right,
president, right? So there's
right.
no independence there. You're
So,
absolutely right.
so
And
like
yeah,
that,
if
the
there
pure
if
hope of that is just I don't know. I can't even like get behind that, and I'm a hopeful person.
yeah,
But
I POW camp, they say you got to have small victories, right, to keep your morale up so that you can get to the next day, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
in the situation of a city that's under duress, or in citizens that feel like there's the
yeah.
injustice, terrible, just mobs of people are out murdering citizens, right? Like that's what the
So
feeling has been for the last couple of weeks.
yeah,
So maybe we're witnessing one of those small victories of, hey, at least they didn't cover it up straight off
yeah.
day one again. You know what I'm
I
saying?
can see that. A big victory that I think Minnesota should be taken away is Representative Omar's response to the attack at her town hall.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You,
That was
you know,
awesome.
yeah, some lunatic that without even going back in his history of his social media was clearly a Trump MAGA nut.
Yeah.
Um, but he jumps up, sprays, I guess, vinegar on her.
Yeah.
Wasn't even something really
Wasn't
dangerous or something like
caustic
that.
or dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not even sure what the like what
What was
his
the point?
the intent was gonna be. Like, yeah, like she's like a
Yeah.
wicked witch. She was just gonna like melt right there. um, but as he gets up there to spray her, like she kind of steps back and then comes right around the podium and squares up on him and like is
Yeah.
ready to go at him, and like and then her little speech afterwards is I've been bullied my whole life. Bring it on. Like we're here to fight. Like we're not giving up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was a huge victory for Minnesota in general. And I think with the tide turning, Holman said that they're going to be standing down. They're going to be wrapping things up. Trying to get out of there. Uh, like
And that's why
It's
the city is full of people out on the streets today, because they don't believe it, right? They
yeah,
still
yeah.
see the enforcement happening at the same
Yep,
level as of
yep.
today. And I heard something, we'll talk about, or we can reflect on some of what we've talked about in the last couple of weeks about how there's been such undisciplined activity by all the agents, right? And
Yes.
we've tended to relate that to lack of training and just
Hmm.
poor discipline anyway, right?
Hmm.
There's another factor that I found out yesterday that it matters, right? Their charter, when they got to Minnesota in this operation, whatever they call it, like Metro Surge is what they call it, right? Operation
Okay.
Metro Surge. 3,000 arrests a day for the ICE agents there.
That's the quota.
That was the quota. 3,000 arrests a day. That's
Can you put?
insane. That is insane. No wonder they were just running down the streets, attacking anybody
But
that
like,
looked
what?
like they might be an immigrant, like.
But what do they get out of that? Like at some point, people need to like wake the fuck up and stop like saying, "Oh, he told me I needed to do this." Like, no, like no, like the 3,000 people. Like, there's not 3,000 criminals just running down every street every day.
Every single day. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like people like the whole excuse of just trying to meet my quota. Like, this isn't like Office Space. Like, you're not sending TPS reports here. Like, these are humans that you are tackling, and yeah, it's just disgusting that people would even put numbers on human lives like that.
Yeah,
Like,
that
let's disrupt 3,000 lives a day.
what an
Families. I want
arbitrary
families
number. You know
disrupted
what I'm
a
saying?
day. 3,000. Like, how disgusting is that?
Yeah, every day. Like, and they just pulled that number out of a hat. They were
Oh,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
I guess somebody did some kind of math, and they said, okay, if we want to arrest 100,000 people in the next 6 months, then we
Hmm.
have to do this, this, and this.
Yep.
And but that comes down to basically like one person or more than one for every agent that was there for the first few weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not possible. They're
Yeah.
rolling out squads of 8 to 10 people deep. How
It,
how is it even possible? Like, the logistics behind that is insane. I
yeah.
can't imagine, like, think about military operations where in Iraq or Fallujah, they had to go door to door, street to street to take possession of the entire city. That took weeks, right?
Yeah.
That was with entire brigades of army people with heavy weaponry. You know what I'm saying? And Marines with
Right.
heavy weaponry, right? They want them to do almost more than what those military people were doing, right? Like,
Hmm.
they want more action than that
Yeah.
in Minneapolis. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
And
I mean,
they were kicking down doors. They were pushing it as far as they could, and
yeah,
yeah,
crazy. I
to
mean, I just,
just yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many every conversation ends lately with "How did we get here?" It's just
yeah,
such a disgusting state of affairs to have this, white
that
supremacy, Christian
absolute nasty,
nationalist
their
attitude just
franticness.
destroying us.
Yeah, I would say their frantic nature is what we were commenting on, and that is absolutely a factor of, like, if we're not, putting 10 people every hour in a paddy wagon, we're getting behind, and so we're just going to start knocking people down so we can
Yeah.
get down 2 blocks down the street and try and find 10 more people to put in a paddy wagon,
Yeah.
and if people get in our way, we're going to run over them,
Hmm.
like. That's what we're watching, because that's the pressure that those untrained and undisciplined people are under, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. But they
And
gave them
that
a $50,000 signing bonus, so they feel extremely committed to the mission, right? Like, I'm not joking
well,
on that one, right? If somebody
no.
gave you $50,000 and said, "Go do a good job, do the best
Yeah.
job you can do," and, oh, by the way, we're going to ask you to do something that's almost impossible,
Yeah.
you're going to do
Well,
it, right? For 50
so they
grand,
don't even
right?
get that 50,000. They have to serve for like 5 years to get that $50,000.
Okay.
So like they even got scammed on that. But
Yeah.
they're issuing or they're asking for more money for bonuses and things like that for just throwing money at the entire operation, and just it's clearly not what the overwhelming majority of Americans want. This is
No.
one of those issues that I don't even think it's an RD thing at this point. Like, everybody wants this to be over with. um but one thing I think is kind of you know scary, is that while all of this stuff is going on, we haven't really been hearing as much about Greenland, Canada this week. That's after
Yeah.
seeing maps of American flags on those things.
Yeah.
Um, so like those things don't just go away. Uh, they just kind of keep coming back. So whenever we get this under control, we have so many other bonfires of just garbage going,
Yeah.
burning around us. Where do we go
Yeah.
next?
Well, as you were
Um,
talking about throwing money at DHS, we'll transition that into one of our other topics and bonfires that, as you
yeah,
mentioned,
yeah,
Congress, government shutdown, government
mm,
spending, right? So I am keenly tuned in to government shutdowns due to my profession. And so I started paying attention late last week and said, let me see how likely this is, because the folks in the government are saying, "Hey, we're getting the word that we need to get ready to like pack it up, right? Not
yeah,
that it's guaranteed, but funding may run out, right? And there's no not a political topic, but hey, the money's done on next Friday, so just
yeah,
that's what it is, you know."
yep,
So that gave me the like, oh no, here it comes again, and then of course Schumer and everybody said DHS is the sticking point this time, right? If we're gonna have a shutdown, it's gonna be over the spending in ICE, DHS, CBP, all that stuff, right? And I'm like, all right, that's a much better thing to have a fight over. I feel like, especially with what's going on right now, like there's some political pressure behind that. So I
yeah,
don't want there to be a shutdown, but I could see a genuine fight like out of that topic, right? There's a
yeah,
lot, like you said, a lot of people in America that want to get behind that topic. So the Democrats from their lower position could have something that could push them up a little bit.
right,
Well, for me, I'm very happy to report that it seems like the shutdown has been averted. The Senate agreed with the White House on basically funding everything through September except for DHS, and that they'll get that passed. The House has to talk about it. I don't think there's anybody that's looking to make a hero move in the House right now and try and stall this thing out and get some kind of attention. So
yeah.
I think it's all
So
going to work out money wise, and it's going to stay open.
so something that just kind of popped into my head here. Uh, did you happen to see what the DoD is being projected to happen? Is it the 800 billion, or is it the 1.5 trillion that
Oh,
Trump asked for?
that was for future. I mean, we're still that was FY. I think the 1.5 trillion was going to be FY 27.
Oh, okay, okay. So
So
separate time.
that
Okay,
was they're talking about doing that as the proposal for FY 27. So
yeah,
they're executing on the close around that 900 billion
okay.
this year. Yeah,
So just my cynical mind, them shutting down the ICE operations, or hopefully shutting them down, because they're still funding the DHS for only 2 weeks. So hopefully in that time the ICE operations ramp down.
yeah,
But if we have an increased military budget, and that he could just start sending the guard into places too,
sure,
to just transfer the mission, really, if
yeah,
there's enough threat places, which I think, another shout out to Minnesota and the organizers there, keeping it non-violent, for the
hmm
most part. You don't really hear about any kind of riots or anything like that.
no,
All the violence is on the ICE side. uh there's some videos of even Alex Preddy there kicking a car and things like that. But again, this is nothing that one warrants a death sentence on the
no,
street. uh it's overwhelmingly peaceful until the goons start pushing in,
yeah,
right? So it's important to always remember that, if they keep up this pressure, and ICE does back out the city, like, those folks should get a hero's parade.
oh for sure, yeah, I agree. Yeah, the community resistance there has been excellent
Yeah,
and impressive for sure. Yeah,
yeah. With the government shutdown thing, it worries me that we're still funding the rest of this nightmarish administration. um we talked a little bit earlier that, uh even being able to sit secretaries that are so unqualified is just kind of disgraceful to the positions that they're holding. For a long time, we've talked about the dumbing down of America, how our school systems no longer teach kids to critically think and really figure things out for themselves. We teach them the test, and we make the tests easier so that our numbers go up, so that no child gets left behind, things like that.
Yeah,
So our entire education system for the last 40 years has been based on the system of just dumbing things down and not holding the standard.
sure.
uh we are seeing that come to roost in our government now. With the Senate confirming all of these administrative officials that don't deserve to be in the seats that they sit in now, uh, they've done this to us. Like,
Yeah,
like all of the folks that approved any of these unqualified people, they dumbed down these positions and lowered the standards of what it means to carry these positions. And all of us are going to pay the consequences for generations at this point.
that was kind of what your comment led me to think is, can this, and I've said this kind of statement before, can America count this as an aberration, and is it possible to reestablish the standard quickly? Right?
Mhm.
Can we revert right back and just say, okay, that madness is over,
Yeah.
and we're
Whoa,
going to go
sorry,
back
guys.
to how business was usually done, right, or whatever, even if it's not
Yeah.
how normal business as usual. um, can the standards of qualification and decorum and professionalism and XYZ be reestablished in one good movement? Or, like you say, is it going to be a struggle to get it back to that?
Well, because
I don't know.
like
I don't know.
at this point it's so deep. I one thing that I think would help with the correction would be following suit on some of these social media bans that I think Canada and Australia,
Okay,
Australia did it first, and then Canada just, I think, recently tried to got it passed. Or like 15 and under can't have a social media account.
sure.
I think we do so much damage to all of ourselves with how quickly we consume information, and
Sure.
this especially with so much false information out there and disinformation, like deliberately misleading information.
Yeah.
uh we need to do a better job of protecting kids and making sure that they're not falling down these rabbit holes of the Andrew Tates of the world and all these hateful, just
Yeah.
spiteful feelings,
Well,
because
man, you took it. That's a long game there. You're talking about restoring things in a generation. I'm hoping to get it back in like 8
yeah,
years. You know what I'm saying? You're
can't
saying
happen.
no, it's going to take 20
No,
years.
because if you don't, it just keeps coming back. And I mean, we're 80 years after the Holocaust, and people are saying it didn't exist. It never
Sure.
happened.
Sure.
It was like
Yeah, I got
we
you.
we
I got you.
we
History
we've
can be
allowed
rewritten.
we've
Knowledge can be
allowed
erased.
stupidity too much
Yeah.
leniency.
Sure. Yeah. I gotta be on board with what you're saying. I guess I hadn't thought about it, but yeah. Astute wisdom from Adam today.
Yeah,
Thank you, Adam.
yeah.
That'll be a new
Ugh.
segment. Adam's wisdom.
Uh, it's like that. What grinds my gears on Family
Yeah.
Guy?
Right.
You know what really grinds my gears?
You know what grinds my gears?
Stupidity.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I had I guess I was in the army, right? You got to have acronyms for everything, right? And Preddy, his last name. I was like, I like. There's something there. There's a way to make that into like a nonprofit, or like put it on a shirt, make it an
Mm,
acronym somehow, right?
yeah,
People resisting ethically the tyrannical invasion. PRETTI, right?
that's a good sign right
Yeah,
there.
I like it, right? It's a way
Yeah,
to like honor him and carry the
yeah,
protest forward, right?
hell yeah.
So, and it
Uh,
fits because that's what's happening, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
So I have, with the groups that I do around town, we have craftivism events where we
yeah,
just do things as a community just to get together and hang out as a community.
yeah,
Um, that'd be a good sign to make it one of those.
yeah. Yep, go for it. You got to send me a picture if anybody makes it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like it. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. It's just like you said, there's gonna be. I really think that the push right now and the drawdown is temporary. I think the Minneapolis situation might slow down. but they're just going to go to Boston or,
Exactly.
somewhere else,
Yeah. The
So,
show will go somewhere else. With Holman there, it was kind of interesting to see him just kind of back down so quickly. But I think it was a perfect time for him to do that because he could say it's not my fault. It's like these guys screwed everything up.
yeah, yeah.
But if he stays in there for a while, you assume that fault.
You do take over the legacy of whatever's
It-
going on. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And what he
So
said, which makes sense, is that they're going to focus on people who are already in jail and prison and going and retrieving them out of the custody of the state and taking them into deportation, right? And I'm like, that should have been what they did all along. That should have been the first thing,
yeah. Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, if you would have brought that to the table months ago, cool, maybe, whatever.
Yeah.
No,
But
fuck
they
off
wouldn't have hit
now.
their
Like I don't
3,000
know.
a day number. There's only
Right, right.
3,000
Oh
people in
yeah,
the whole prison system
yeah,
that would have qualified to get deported. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, they
yeah.
might have got 5,000 people out of the prison system on really stretched out ways to get them deported. And then they would have had to get back on the street, right? Like,
Has anybody checked like the Kashi or DraftKings or betting sites to see if there's any like over unders on how many people they arrest a day? Like,
oh gosh.
yeah, yeah. Could people
You
be
can bet
making
on
money
anything
off
on Kalshi, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Sick people out there, man. Yeah, it's
yeah.
probably on there. Just for real.
So I heard earlier today there was a sheriff in California. No, LAPD police chief, like the LAPD, like the most
Yeah.
famously,
Mm,
corrupt, abusive police force out
sure.
there. He says that he's not going to enforce mask laws. So California passed a law saying that ICE officers need to not wear their
No wear
masks.
mask. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The police chief says we're not going to enforce that. He says it's a misdemeanor crime, and for us to go up and escalate a situation that's already tense over a misdemeanor crime just doesn't make sense.
So it's a performative law. It's really what he's saying.
That's what
Yeah,
he's saying. He say he
yeah,
and he said he literally said that he said this was a bad law. We were not really consulted on this,
yeah,
and I definitely see his point about like carrying guns into a misdemeanor fight, right? Like
sure.
like it doesn't make sense. But the ICE officers themselves are serving civil misdemeanor warrants. Why the fuck are they carrying? I'm swearing a lot this episode. I'm sorry. Why are they carrying guns into these? So
Yeah,
let's stop that then. Like don't even worry about the mess. Let's focus on these law enforcement in parentheses there,
yeah,
uh, carrying weapons for misdemeanor crimes themselves.
sure.
You know what I mean? So like don't try to say like, oh, we're scared of
Yeah, if you're
misdemeanors.
not going to
Like
apprehend the
your boys are
felon,
doing that. You're
yeah,
scared that your boys will have to take their masks off and all of the little connections will come together.
sure.
Yeah. So it's that's how I feel. I understand. If it wasn't like the LAPD police chief saying this, I might feel
Different
differently.
about
But yeah,
it.
but like, come on, guys! Like, you guys do not have a great track record.
Fair. Well, California is known for passing laws that are basically a bag of farts, right? Like that's kind of their thing sometimes is
Yeah,
like putting
yeah,
on a show, virtue signaling through legislation. That's
yeah.
basically what I'm trying to say. So they do that. And so it makes sense that they would pass a law that's unenforceable, right? As just to
Hmm.
put it on the books and say, this is what we care about.
Yeah.
And I'm not down with that kind of politics. I don't see much benefit in it. People
Yeah.
do it, and people want you to get on board, and they're like, "You're not part of the team if you don't rah for this." And I'm like,
It-
"It's if it's dumb, it's dumb."
yeah.
So
That was one of the things when I was trying to do the caucus thing last cycle. There's a question about the George Floyd law that was going through Congress and about banning chokeholds.
okay,
And I was like, I can't support that.
hmm
Because when you're in a fight, like take out like this who's who in the situation, right?
yeah,
If you're in a fight for your life, sometimes chokeholds happen.
there's no rules. Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. You're doing whatever you can to get through that fight alive.
yeah,
If you ban chokeholds, you take away the ability to properly train people how to utilize them.
sure.
So
Yep,
like by
that's true.
saying, but if you're in it, if you got somebody going after your gun and trying to get your gun from you, like
Yeah,
a chokehold's gonna happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Like some, people are going to utilize whatever they can to stay
Whatever force they
alive.
can to save their
Um,
life. Yeah,
so you just need better training on how to use them, how to utilize, proper leverages and feeling bodies and things like that. Like
sure.
you don't run away from the tactics, but people weren't ready to hear that really and listen to that aspect. They just wanted
Yeah.
no, don't you. There should be no hands on evidence. That's just not reality.
I witnessed a very similar situation. And actually, this is an interesting story. There was a bunch of gun
Hey,
stuff
my
going
story
on.
was interesting too. You
It was.
asshole.
No, I mean, at first I was going to tell you a boring anecdote. Now I'm going to tell you an interesting story, right? Um, there was a guy, so we were at this event, and it was put on by one of our city council guys. And he had been a DC police officer, and then he came to Albuquerque and became a city council guy. And I liked him. We got along, and I would see him at all kinds of events. And I think he was the host of this, and we were having it at some, I think it was, I can't remember if it was, yeah, it was at a church, Methodist church downtown in Albuquerque. So it was, we had police guarding the place because it was some kind of Democratic associated anti gun. I don't remember what, right? But there wasn't a whole lot of people there. There's maybe 50 people there. And everybody was talking about different ideas around what gun control makes sense, right? What gun control makes sense or doesn't make sense, right? And people are talking about electronic trigger locks or triggers that have like a way that it knows biomarkers and things like that,
Hmm.
so that if only you can shoot your gun, right?
Yeah.
And this guy got up, and he was one of us, Google gobble, right? He was a Democrat. He wasn't snuck in and like waiting to own the libs,
Yeah.
but he got up there, and we got to remember we're in New Mexico. Gun ownership is common because there's a lot of people that live out in the country there, right? Like in the farm, just
Yeah.
there. It does, the political affiliation is not associated with gun ownership unless you're right
Yeah.
in the city, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Coyotes don't care who
Yeah,
you vote
exactly.
for. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this guy gets up and he's like, I cannot own a gun that's not mechanically armed because I need it to work when I pull the trigger, and I need to be able to maintain it and ensure that I can use it in any condition, right? And I just would never buy a gun like that. So if you made that law, people would be retrofitting their weapons to turn them back into mechanical guns.
Yeah.
There's, just like you say, don't have automatic guns, but there's ways around it. People would
Yeah.
just work backwards off of this and put a regular trigger on their gun. This is not a valid point.
Yeah.
And man, that was some cojones to get up there and just be like, y'all sound dumb right now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You sound like a
But
room full of people that own guns, is what you sound
right.
like.
Yeah.
You know?
So how was that received?
Everybody just sat on their hands and nobody said anything. They just like, okay, well, are you done telling us we're stupid now? We're going to
Yeah.
get the next person up here.
Yeah.
There was no, it fell on deaf ears. They were like, no, we're smart. We all got the
Yeah.
room together. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's so tough. And that's what I've been learning about the caucus process, which, early March is, when we're doing that again. The folks that are really in charge of getting people on the ballots and things like that,
Yeah.
it's such a small, clicky group of folks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not in, you're not in.
That's
and
true.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, and it's going to be interesting, this time around, with the blue wave that's coming, like who we get into on the ballot for us.
Critical strategy point for, getting the right people on the ballot this year. That's for sure.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
level of the ticket, right?
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Because there's going to be a blue wave. Is You still need to draw independent. Independents only voted at like 60% last
You have
time.
to
Uh,
capitalize. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
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 can't
got you got
sleep
to be
through
able to
it. You
bring
still
them
have to
in.
go hard. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't give them a candidate that's like meh, meh,
Right.
meh,
Yeah. No,
like
you gotta
you got
really
to
find the
bring
best
still
one.
bring them out. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Fair.
well, I think that's all we have. Oh, other than the Epstein files, they got released with not anything really being
Yeah.
released, but
Right.
just to
People are
keep
starting
that
to
in the
finally
news.
call that out. Even, most
It's
Republicans are saying this is against the law now,
yeah,
like
yeah,
they're
like
at least willing to say that. They're not
yeah,
calling anybody's names. They're not picking up the phone. But if somebody puts a microphone in front of their face, they're like, yeah, we should have seen it all by now. And then
yeah,
they just
but
keep walking,
right. And the DOJ comes out and says, no, yeah, we're done. We're not
Well,
sending you anything else.
we'll let you know. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, just
well, there we go. We always like to end on
there
a
we go.
sad note, right?
Yeah, there we go.
We
Oh,
started with hope. We started with hope, right? So
yeah, we
that was
did.
good.
Well, Well, bring us back around with some good outro music here.
Oh yes, all right. So musical scores provided by Dick Wilkinson.
Yeah, yeah. Make
Thanks
sure you.
everybody for listening to Left Face. We'll catch you next time.